It's no secret that writing can be lonely work, but does it really have to be? Whether you're full-time, part-time, or just starting out, you'll get insights into the tricks, tips, and production habits of writers from every level of the biz. From best-selling authors to those launching their first novels, you're sure to be in the company of friends as we encourage great writers to divulge and share their secrets. This is the Great Writers Share podcast with your host, best-selling author, Daniel Wilcox.
Hello and welcome to the Great Writers Share podcast with me, Daniel Wilcox, where every week I hijack an hour or so of time from some of the kindest and hardest working writers around today to join me on the show and discuss everything that makes them tick, roar and bounce. Today's date is Tuesday the 19th of May, which brings us to day 65, give or take, of lockdown in Britain. And this week has been tremendously challenging, all things taken into account. I'm finally reaching the point of lockdown where I've completely lost all track of what the day is and when I should be doing things. I failed my first task for my other podcast with Sacha Black, the Next Level Authors, and I'm now subject to the dreaded forfeit, which is currently going into the comments on the Facebook group, which is not fun. And it's all because of the fact that every day at the minute is just blurring into one. This isn't to start the episode off on a downer, but more just to acknowledge the fact that life's a bit different right now. We all have ups and downs. I personally believe I've been handling the crisis pretty well up until this point, and balancing work like a champion. So I'm also aware that I need to cut myself some slack. As I've said on this podcast before, and as you've no doubt heard on 1,000 other news channels, these are not ordinary times, and I have to keep reminding myself of that it's okay to pull back and not be your best sometimes, or at least that's what I'm telling myself right now. That said, I've managed to get a good number of things ticked off my to-do list this week, which I'm pretty happy with. Collaboration for Authors is all live and beautiful on most digital stores for its launch on June 26th. And I'm looking forward to getting that out into the world and seeing how it's going to get on. I'm already percolating for another non-fiction, but I definitely need to clean some projects off my plate before I do that. By the time this episode airs, I will also have completed book 1 of my horror serial, clocking in the first story at around 30,000 words or so, which will mean that in a few weeks' time I can get that up on Amazon while I chip away at book 2 and look at getting into the rhythm of the write and release to test the serial model, see if I can make it work for the horror genre. I'll keep you posted more on that as it comes, because I have no idea how it's going to perform at this point, and everyone likes an experiment, so we'll see how that rolls. And finally, as teased last week, I'll soon be finishing the edits on a 6-episode bonus miniseries for patrons of the Great Writers Share, featuring an exciting guest host. These episodes will air on June the 1st over at www.patreon.com/Great Writers Share, and we'll share a bunch of lessons and craft advice for writers straight from the mouth of 2 best-selling authors. These are audio and video for anyone who wants to see the burning chemistry between myself and the as of yet unrevealed guest host. A quick reminder that if you want to learn how to supercharge your scenes, then the sensational Jay Thorne is hosting a free 5-day online event that's free, in which he'll take you through all the principles you need to write and revise compelling scenes that will exponentially improve your novel or non-fiction book. The course will be running from the 15th to the 19th of June, and if you want to get involved, there'll be a link in the show notes for you to click straight on through. And it's free, in case I haven't mentioned, so why not check that out? I think I'll probably be going over and seeing what it's all about as well, because if I can learn from anyone in the business, I'd love to learn from Jay. So join me and join Jay. And I believe Rachel Herring's getting involved as well, so let's just keep name dropping until you click on the link. This week's guest is the uber-talented Clare Littlemore. I'd like to say that Clare is a personal friend of mine and someone who is doing some exciting things over in the dystopian genre. The Flow series wrapped up the quadrilogy in January of this year, and we discuss how Clare's journey took her into dystopian fiction and the support her husband gave her to get started. We go into the power of closing a series and the leverage that gives you in marketing the books. And we bounce around with the pros and cons of outlining, going deep into Clare's thought process of outlining when it comes to her new work in progress. Based off the content of this interview, this week's question is, how do you approach outlining your novel? Be sure to comment on the Patreon page or the Facebook group and let me know. Speaking of Patreon, before we dive into the interview, I wanted to quickly remind everyone about the Great Writers Share Patreon page, where, for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to a whole bunch of goodies and extras, including early, ad-free access to all episodes, entry into our private Slack channel, as well as access to the aforementioned brand new miniseries coming on the 1st of June, and an extra bonus for this month, and a little bit next month as well. I will also be giving away free digital versions of collaborations for authors to anyone who joins the Patreon page before the book's official release on June 26th. If you want to check it out, then go over to www.patreon.com/greatwritershare and get involved. And now, without any further ado, we'll dive into the interview with the one and the only Clare Littlemore. Enjoy. Clare Littlemore is a young adult dystopian and sci-fi author who thrives on fictionally destroying the world with a cup of tea by her side. The tea will often go cold because her characters have a way of grabbing hold of her and not letting go until the final page of the story is finished. They regularly have the same effect on her readers. Clare, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Let me try that again. Put my teeth in. My first question to you relates somewhat to the genre you write in, which is what's the difference between a dystopian author and a sociopath?
That's a very interesting one to start with. I'm not sure. I'd like to think a sociopath might follow through with some of their more destructive, violent tendencies. I like writing about the world going horribly wrong, but given our situation at the moment, I don't like experiencing it very much. So yeah, I guess, I like to write about it. And I do, I like the whole killing people off and so on. But yeah, in real life, I'm quite timid and sensible and don't do things like that.
I think that's always the interesting thing is people who write in particular genres don't often reflect in real life the type of people that they write about, which I guess it's that whole yin and yang thing.
Maybe it's like, I think it might be like you want to be like those people. Like genuinely, like my character in my main series is, I mean, she's 16 and I'm definitely not 16, but like she's quite brave and she does things I probably wouldn't dare to do. So I guess not with your pen, because we don't write with pens anymore, but when you write, you're creating someone you might like to be. Maybe not everybody does, but I kind of, maybe you live through your own characters a little bit.
Well, for my listeners that aren't, wow, I'm really struggling today. I'm sorry. It's not even the end of the day. I've got no excuses here. For my listeners that are unfamiliar with yourself and your work, do you want to give us just a little overview on how your writing journey began and where you're currently at?
Yeah, sure. I mean, since I've been writing, I've been reading since I was a very young child. I absolutely adore reading and I love writing as well. But I think when I was growing up, I never really wrote more than like parts of stories or descriptions. I used to write long descriptions and get really like into the similes and the metaphors. But I never think, I think I'm just, like I said, I'm quite sensible. I never believed that it was actually something I could make a career out of. So I think people told me, a bit unrealistic, go and be something sensible. So I think I just sort of put it away for a really long time and tried a couple of other things. Main one of which was teaching, which actually I've done for a really long time and I still do now part-time. I'm not a full-time writer at the moment. But I think when I was in my 30s, I kind of rediscovered a love of writing and massively encouraged by my husband, who's he's a computer programmer. He's very into technical things. So he encouraged me to have a go at self-publishing, like probably, when was it? I don't know, like 2012, something along those lines. And the first couple of things I've self-published were actually quite dull. Revision guides for books that I teach because I'm an English teacher. So I published a few of those and figured out like how it worked. And then a couple of years later in 2013, I wrote, I just had an idea when we were on holiday for like a bit of a mystery thriller type thing. And my husband was like, oh, here's a pen, here's a pad of paper, just write. So where I would normally on holiday have read a book or read 10 books, I sat and I scribbled like the whole time. And when I came home, I had 7,000 words after like a fortnight's holiday, which is quite exciting. So I figured, let's have a go. So I wrote what was really a novella. I think it was about 27,000 words, but I figured like I'd finished it. And Mark was like, my husband was like, have a go, just stick it up there, see what happens. So I did that. And then it was kind of, it did okay, not brilliantly, but like, all right. And I think after that point, I started to try and write some other things and also learn from my mistakes, because I got some reviews which were interesting. I think I left it on a bit too much of a cliffhanger. And people didn't like that. Some people really didn't like that. So I kind of learned. I wrote sort of a follow-up to it. And then 2014, my husband got quite seriously ill. So I sort of had to stop for quite a while. He was life just took over, and we had 2 years of him recovering. So then I started in 2017 with much more of a like idea of what I was doing, and that's when I started writing Flow, which is my completed dystopian young adult series. And I wrote a series, which is what you're supposed to do, and I love dystopian fiction, so it was and also I teach teenagers, so writing for young adults seemed like a kind of a good place to start. So then from 2017 to 2020 I wrote the series. I know that's really slow but I've just published the last one in January, and now I'm thinking about what to do next.
Beautiful. And we definitely will go into talking about Flow in the series, because I've got a lot of questions myself, as someone who I should probably say contextually for listeners, we know each other in real life as well. We've sort of met up on a few occasions, and we're I'd like to say friends, but I'm assuming at this point. But I was wondering, you said your first book, 2013, or your first attempt at writing something was a mystery thriller. What was it that made you then go into the dystopian fiction later on, rather than sticking with that as a genre?
I don't know. Well, okay. I think part of it was that I didn't go as well as I wanted it to when I was writing in that genre. But I've actually had people who read those books who have gone, when are you going to go back to writing those thriller type books again? So I'm not ruling out going back to it. And I did really like it, but I think I just felt a little bit like I don't know, like I got my fingers burned a bit because of these bad reviews. And so what I did was I actually wrote that under a pen name, slightly different name. And then, like I say, when my husband was ill, I don't want to bang on about that, but it was like such a bombshell that hit our lives. And it just threw everything into total disarray for quite a length of time, because he was very severely ill, and then when he did start to recover, it was a really long road. So I think after 2 years, when he was sort of finally like okay again, I wanted to do something new, I guess. And I think as a series, I don't know whether maybe I've been reading more dystopian stuff as well in the meanwhile, and it seemed more sensible to do a series in dystopian fiction. That was a really rambly answer, I don't know.
No,
I think maybe that.
Yeah. No, I always find it interesting, because you always tend to see that, I mean, life happens, and obviously to everyone, something will throw you in and out of the things that you love, and think different things will demand your attention at different points. I am curious, you mentioned earlier as well about something occurring which reignited your love of writing. Was there any specific catalyst that made you think, okay, I want to actually get back into this and give this a go?
Well, I mean, it was genuinely this holiday we were on, and I can't explain why the holiday made me think about because I hadn't been writing. I teach English and English literature, and I think I used to get my sort of writing kicks from teaching kids to write, and I'd be like, here's an example on the board that I'd written myself. And that was the only bit of writing I did. And I think maybe the more I did of that, the more I thought, I'm missing something here. And then, genuinely, we were on holiday in Menorca. It was sunny. It was an idyllic, beautiful holiday destination. And I just had this, honestly, it just popped into my head. I just had this vision of a young woman who'd come there on her own, and who, like, to escape something bad that had happened to her, and like what happened to her when she got to the island. That literally popped into my head, and then I had to write it. So I did. Yeah, I don't know. I would genuinely, I think, in the future want to go back to that. But I feel like at the minute, because I have built some success with the dystopian series, I want to sort of do at least one more.
Yeah. No, definitely ride the wave of success. I'm always interested in people's sort of origin stories, and one thing I'm fascinated by is trying to nail down what it is that keeps people going when they first start. Because obviously everyone can write, broadly speaking, obviously. People are taught at school, people have coherent knowledge of sentences and how to put a story together. But there's something in people like yourself, like the other people I've interviewed, like myself, who trudge on despite the fact that it seems like there's no reward in the immediacy. And it's such a painstaking thing to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And actually, just trying to distill what that is in people is just impossible, because obviously there's just some magic source.
It is. No, it genuinely is. It's like when you're, I don't know if you have characters in books that do things that you didn't expect them to do. Like I have so I wrote this no, it wasn't dystopian. Sorry, I wrote this kind of mystery thriller that was not very long, and then I wrote the follow-up sort of story, which was actually a full-length novel about this girl's sister, and she went. Basically, the girl disappeared, so she went to search for her, and I included this second character who was literally. I wrote him in as a tiny minor character that was supposed to be just to shed light on the main character, and then I mentioned him again a chapter or two later. And he genuinely then turned into the love interest in the book. I don't know how. He started off being a teenager and I had to age him up so he was appropriate for her. And I don't even know how that happened. It just happened. And it was just something in my head. So I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to listen to the characters and try and force what you originally wanted. Because obviously the more in depth you get into a story, the more those natural conflicts and appearances come, and then just following that journey.
Yeah. I think that's where... I mean, I don't know whether the pantser plotting type thing comes in, but I think the first few I definitely just pantsed everything, and when I got towards the end of the Flow series, I really struggled because I hadn't planned ahead. And now I'm trying really hard to outline a new series, and I'm finding it so hard because I just want to go, just write, just do it, but I can't. I know I can't because I had such issues and such heartache over the last few, like the 2 books and books 3 and 4 in the Flow series, that I just don't want to put myself through that again.
Well, let's dig into that then, because that was one of the points I definitely wanted to get into, because obviously you have wrapped up that series, so congratulations, and it seems to have gone down quite well in terms of reviews and sales and things I've seen anyway. Are you happy with how it's gone so far?
Yeah, I am, and I think, I don't know, you always want to do better, don't you? But I think it's hard not to compare yourself to other people, but kind of trying to take a step back and looking at how it's doing. It is doing quite well, considering it's dystopian fiction, which isn't necessarily everybody's cup of tea. It's not like romance, it's not thriller, it's not one of those massive sort of genres that, I don't know. So yeah, I'm pleased, and I'm very proud that I finished it, because like I say, the last couple of books were a hard slog. Like you say, I had to just keep going and hope that it would all be all right in the end. But no, I'm pleased. I want to build on what I've got, and I think advertising is the way to go, but I'm not very far on with that yet. So
yes, I think I saw you floating around one of the same Facebook groups I'm currently in for the Brian Cohen challenge.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that today. In fact, when I was doing it before you called me, I was like, oh, more keywords.
Yeah, I've had no time to put into that yet, but I really, really want to. Is there Actually, I'll save that one because I'm trying to keep on track.
Sorry, I'm throwing you off track.
No, I'll be completely honest to yourself and people listening. I am shattered today, but I'm not going to let that stop me because, you know, I love you and we've been trying to get this going for ages. So,
I'm sorry. You could have postponed.
No, it's absolutely fine. So yeah, the Flow series, what are some of your biggest lessons learned from wrapping all that up? Because obviously it's 4 books. You started it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You pulled it all together. However many thousands of words, and I'm guessing from the beginning to the end there's definitely been some kind of evolution in process and what you now expect from writing a book.
Yeah, there definitely has. I wrote Flow again. It was a bit of I guess like a labor of love. I just kind of went, I don't know where that even came from now thinking of it, but I just wrote it and I was like, just wrote, and it was so much fun. And then I sent it so I had my first professional editor with Flow, and I sent it off to her, and she was like, this is a really clean manuscript. There's not actually that. No, but there was stuff for her to do, but she commented on how like it really wasn't. She was expecting to have to do loads of work on it, and she didn't. So yay, brilliant! And I was like, fab, I'm great at this. And then I published it, and I started on the second one, and that wasn't so bad either. There were that had more issues, but then I got to book 3, and I just lost because I hadn't sat there with Flow and gone, how's this going to end? Like, yes. I was like, there's going to be 6 books. It's a 6-book series. But I genuinely didn't really even plan how Flow was going to end until I was 3/4 of the way through it. So I didn't have any start or end points for the books. And then when I got to book 3, I wanted to do certain things and I couldn't because I'd published Flow and I'd set the world out, and it's quite a detailed world at the start. So, I mean, like any dystopian world, it has to be. And I think, do you know what? I've just remembered what made me change as well. You asked me this before I can answer it. I got myself in knots with the thrillers because I had to like do loads of research and try and get things right with like, I ended up with Spanish police officers and I don't speak Spanish. So
fun.
I really backed myself into a corner with it. So I was like, well, if I write about a dystopian future, what can go wrong? Because I'm making it up.
That's
It's
why I love
totally
it, yeah.
like, it's just out of my head. So anything can happen. That's not true. So like I wrote the first one and I got halfway through and I told my dad about it and he was like, where's the power source? Because you've got electricity there, but you're talking about it being like a wrecked, flooded world. Where does the electricity come from? And I was like, oh. So then I had to add like hydroelectric power and solar panels. And so like stuff like that, like making sure that that the technical stuff works. Because even if it is an imagined world in the future, if there's electricity, clearly there has to be a power source. And I hadn't really thought about that. I'm not very good at those kind of details and I'm vowing to be better next time. And then, yeah, like I say, I got to book 3. Oh yeah, at the end of book 2, I sent, no spoilers, but I sent a load of characters off in a boat to another island. And then they were sort of stuck there. There was no way for them to get back. So book 3, a lot of it is set elsewhere. And that I had to spend most of book 3 thinking, how the heck can I get them back to the original place, to the Beck, which is the place where it's set. So yeah, book 3 was horrible. Book 4 was better, but I sat down and I outlined book 4 at the start. Like I got to the end of book 3 and was like, thank goodness for that, finally. And I have made it all just about work. And I sat down and I outlined book 4. But as my editor said to me recently when I spoke to her about my new series, even when you outline, you keep wanting to change your outline. And I do when I start writing because there's no fun when you've planned every single second of it. So yeah, that's why I changed to dystopian fiction, because I thought it would be easier. It's not. And yeah, I think the big sort of learning points are to plan out at least broad strokes, at least end points of each book. I have writing friends who are really good and they read all the craft books and they plot everything according to the different, and I've not really got to that stage yet, but I am trying. And I've plotted, because I've been finding it hard to write recently because of everything that's going on at the moment, but I've plotted and outlined a series with 3 books in it, and they all have a start point and an end point, and villains that are going to do X, Y, and Z. And so I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks, when we settle back down into life with the kids at home and homeschooling and so on, that I can actually just plow ahead and write them, because I think then I'll write quicker, hopefully, because I'd like to write quicker.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, I don't think I'll ever be able to rapid release, but I'd like to be able to write the drafts of all 3 and get them to my editor so she can be working on the first couple while I'm writing the last one, so that then maybe I can slightly more rapid release, like maybe over a year at least, release all 3.
How are you approaching your planning now for your next series then? Because like you say, the previous series wasn't so much planned. Obviously with this, which you did say was going to be a series, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, it's a trilogy, yeah.
Yeah. So how are you actually approaching learning and planning this? And I guess the question I want to ask is, does it feel natural to you and the style that you work in?
Yes and no. I'm trying to make it part of my style, I think. I think I bought a lot of books on plotting and crafting and so on, and I've read
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I've read Libby Hawker from beginning to end, and I am trying to use some, and those, I like her kind of broad strokes of like filling in the sort of 1 to 5 plot, and it's not plot, is it? It's like your protagonist and what their aim is, and then your antagonist and so on. So I like that idea. And then I've got a few others that I've started reading and not quite finished yet, but I've also been talking to other writer friends who, like I say, are much better than me at it, and they've gone, so you need the inciting event and then this and then that, and I've sort of gleaned a bit from that, so I've been trying to use that as I've gone along. So I've tried to make sure that each of the books has like points in it where the characters have something happen to them that makes them make a decision or change their perspective or go on and do something else. I'm actually going to do a dual narrative for this next one. So
okay.
And I'm going to switch. I don't know whether this is a good idea or not, but my Flo's written all in first person from the main character's point of view. And I haven't had loads of criticism, but one of the things people said was, and my editor said, she was a lot in her head, so it was a lot of her thoughts, and I think that got a bit much towards the end. So I'm trying to do this like there's a boy and then a girl, so they will each alternate chapters, and I'm going to try and do it in third person. I give that a whirl. I actually wrote for an anthology a couple of years back like a prequel story, and that's what I'm using to sort of start off this new series. So it's not like come out of nowhere. But yeah, I think I've just taken these plot points and attempted as best I can to make my characters have things happen to them that fit around that. I haven't started writing yet. I don't know whether when I start I might not very much go with that. I'm frightened that I won't actually, but I'm trying really hard to sort of make sure that they're good. I'm actually going to send them to my editor, the outlines, because I think if she can see where they're going, then she can help guide me or keep me back on the right path, as it were. But like I say, it's so much fun when a character just goes, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, and things just come out of everywhere. I think one of the things that, because I'm in a similar position to you at the minute, I'm in the throes of planning a serial that I'm writing, sort of chipping away at the prequel at the minute. But I'm at a point where I get so anxious is the wrong word, but there's definitely a certain level of expectation of, as a writer, you should be planning, or you should be doing this, or you should have pages of notes, or you should have no notes, or you should have 5 points in an arc, or you should have this or this. And there are so many different perspectives on how to plan. That for a long time, I went down the rabbit hole of like, do I plan like this? And I tried one way and that didn't feel natural. And I think I'm just about getting to a point now where I feel comfortable in how much I plan, as opposed to how much I leave for myself to discover, because there seems to be a bit of a, not stigma so much, but there's a preference for people towards plotting rather than just letting yourself have fun and discover it. But trying to see which side of the campus people fall. It's always interesting to actually hear how people are trying to adapt their process to fit that.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you, because I've tried to make myself outline it, and I didn't really enjoy the process of actually outline. Like I had to sit down for a few hours one day, and then I was like, can't do any more today. And then I'd come back. Whereas with writing, usually I'm really excited to start. So I guess once I start writing, I will have to see whether that comes naturally or whether I want to veer away from it. And I might do, I suppose. But you know, I'm trying to treat it more like a business and more like you need to do this many in this time, rather than just sitting back and just writing whenever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll see. Watch this space.
How did it feel to close off the Flow series after being with those characters for quite a few years?
Really, really, I don't know, really good, but also a bit, I suppose it's a bit sad in a way. And it's funny because now some, you know, people are reading it and discovering it. And if I have a reader now get in touch with me, it's almost like quite a while since I've written as those characters. And I haven't gone, I don't know about you, I don't go back and read them myself.
Not often.
Unless I'm like reading a piece for something like, I don't know, if I was ever reading a section out, but like I don't. So yeah, people will be like, oh, blah blah blah, and they'll say something about, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, you know. And like earlier on, I forget there's so much happened when I did the Quell launch. So Quell's the last book in the series, and when I did the launch, I had like a little Facebook party for readers and so on, and they were saying like who their favorite character was and which their favorite moment was, and it was a bit weird, really. It was quite exciting that these people had like read my stories and read the world and my characters and had favorites and people they didn't like. And sometimes they didn't like a character I thought they would, and that was quite interesting. So
that's got to be a weird one to come to terms with.
Yes, but I mean, they don't hate them, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm pleased that I've done it. I feel a little bit stalled at the moment. Like I feel like I want to move on to something new and something different, so I can be like, I have 2 series. That's the next goal, anyway. But
yeah, well, that's the thing to anyone, I guess, is just getting to a point where you've got it all wrapped up and you're able to push it out to people. And after, like I say, three years, however many thousands of words of being with those characters, I'm in a position with one of my series where we've completed 2 books. I'm working on the 3rd, but the 3rd one's been in the works for quite a while because of other projects I've been in and out of.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I'm like, I so want to get to the point where this series is wrapped up, but there's still quite a lot of work left to do. And trying to balance that against other projects can be quite difficult sometimes. One question that I did want to ask, because I saw this come up quite a lot when the release of Quell was going on, was you launched a book tour, a digital book tour.
I did, yes.
Talk us through a little bit of what that means and how you approach doing that, because I think digital book tours are still quite new in terms of a marketing ploy.
Yeah, okay. Well, it was something I'd never done before. I mean, to be honest, with the release of Flow and Break, the first two in the series, I didn't really do much in the way of a launch. But by the third book, I'd learned a bit more, and I tried to do proper launches. And the one thing I hadn't done when I was launching the last book was a book tour. And I think another writer somewhere had mentioned that they'd done one as part of their sort of launch strategy, and it had been good, and they recommended a company, so I went through that company, and actually, like, the lady that ran it was brilliant, and I was a bit like, I don't know how this all works, and but the way she runs it, and I know from speaking to other people that it's not necessarily the same as others, but her book blog tour is you give her a load of information on the book, so synopses, brief synopses or blurbs, book descriptions, images, and then she created some material herself, and then it ran for a month, from the date of my release of Quell until the 14th of February, 17th of February, which is a month later. And she then has numerous book bloggers who sign up for the ones that they are interested in. So she obviously offers your book or your series. You can do it for a single book, but she prefers to do series. And I did it because I thought it was only really worth investing in it once I had the whole series to promote. And then it was featured on a number of different blogs. So it was, I don't know how many it was in total. There were at least 2 every day, I think. But they varied in size. So some days there was a load of interest and it was quite a large blog, and other days it was maybe a smaller one, quite nichey. But yeah, and there wasn't really much to do once I sent her all the stuff. It was quite self, I don't know, I've forgotten the word. It just ran itself almost. And I suppose it just kind of drummed up a bit more interest. I wouldn't say I think I got hundreds of sales from it, but I got some reviews. I got lots of people sort of commenting, and then I could go back into each of the blogs and respond to those comments, which is nice. And they were all linked to my website. So I had quite a lot of mailing list signups through that. So a lot of people obviously read about the book, and then they might not have bought it, but they clicked through to my website where they then joined my mailing list. So they get like the prequel for the Flow series for free if they join my mailing list. So a lot of people did that. And I do think my sales have been good in the last 2 months since the launch. And I think maybe there's a steady trickle of people coming through who joined the mailing list, hopefully then, read Trail, which is the prequel, and then went on to read the other books in the series. So it wasn't too much work for me, really. And yeah, I feel like it was not a massive impact immediately, but I feel like it's sort of did a job of putting me out there to a number of different bloggers and different people that wouldn't necessarily have seen me otherwise.
Have you found actually in closing the series that there's been any considerable mark in sales across the other books?
I think there has. Yeah, I mean, like I say, with book 3 was when I started to do better with sales once there were 3 books. And then I had more people join my mailing list as a result of finishing Drift, book 3, and then obviously getting to the end and going, where's the last book? And it wasn't ready. So I know I can track where the people join my mailing list from. And so if they're joining it from Drift, I know that they finished book 3 and gone, oh no, where's the book 4? It's not there. So I do think that, having the 3 books, and then now there's a 4th book, because I think sales, it was quite a gap between the 2, but the sales had dipped towards the end of last year, and they went up when I launched Quell, but since then, and it's like 3 months ago now, they've been fairly steady and quite good. So yeah, I do think now there's a series, and I think some people, I don't know whether readers are quite fickle and they don't want to wait for anything, do they, anymore? No. We all binge everything. So I think they look at Flow and go, oh, it's a finished series. And some of my reviews even say that. People have reviewed it and gone, you won't have to wait, it's all here for you. So I don't know whether maybe that has had an impact. I mean, I can't speak for like months down the line, but yeah, at the moment, it's doing well. And what I want to do is try and master these ads and try and make it do even better for longer.
Well, you seem to have a lot of your ducks in the row in terms of the marketing and making sure that people are following through and finding out where people are coming from. How are you sourcing your marketing knowledge in terms of selling the books? Where do you go to find out the things that you need to know?
I think probably Facebook, like all the groups on Facebook. So I'm a member of 20 Books. I mean, I think that's where we met, wasn't it, at 20 Books Edinburgh? So I'm a member of 20 Books. I also have Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course as well, although I haven't done it all yet. I've done sections of it. So yeah, but I think online connections with other authors mostly. I feel like that's the most, probably like friends of mine who have launched sort of similar series or other series but might be able to share tips and so on. And it's been really slow build with me. I've certainly not just gone wham everything in one go, and I think every book I do something slightly different, but it's usually something I've talked to someone about. I've bought several books on marketing, but I haven't read them yet. And I am trying, like I say, you're doing the Brian Cohen ads for 5-day ad course at the moment. And I'm hopefully going to look at Facebook ads soon as well. But yeah, there isn't a central source. It's more just other authors who, like the 20 Books thing of reaching a hand back to that person behind you. You know, I feel like I'm always like thinking forward, and then hopefully I'm getting to that stage where now I can help some people behind me as well, and pass on the knowledge that I have.
How do you divide your day between the writing and the actual admin business side of your work?
Well, I kind of have to divide my week. So I teach 2 days a week. So on a Monday and a Tuesday, I can't do anything at all other than go to work, teach teenagers, come home. And I tutor in the evenings. No, well, it's all right. If I could be a full-time author, and one day, hopefully. But yeah, so I do 2 days a week teaching, and I tutor in the evenings as well. So that's like the first half of my week kind of done with. And then a Wednesday morning, I don't work at school. I don't teach. So yeah, I get up and I write best in the morning. So I say I haven't been writing much recently, but when I'm writing, I try and sort of get started as soon as the kids have gone to school. So like 9 o'clock. And I try and do like 3 hours in the morning writing with a bit of a break or whatever. And then usually in the afternoon, I have less time because like my daughter's still in primary school, so I have to pick her up at like 3. So there isn't a lot of time in the afternoon. It's more like an hour and a half than anything longer. So I try and use that time to do the stuff like, the marketing, advertising, mailing list, newsletters, all of the stuff. You think there's not much, but there's loads. So I do all that in the afternoons usually, because by then my writing brain isn't quite as switched on as it was first thing in the morning. And I'm hoping, my daughter will go to high school in a year and a bit. She's in year 5. So I think it'll get a bit easier then, because I won't have to be picking her up, and she'll leave a bit earlier in the morning. My son leaves at 8. So if they're both out the door at 8, I'll be able to sit down at 8, which just gives me that extra hour. I know it sounds silly, but like I'm building in that time as they get that bit older. So, but yeah, it's usually mornings for writing and afternoons for advertising and marketing and things like that.
It's so difficult trying to work out what the next thing is that you should be doing. Because I'm in terms of ads and learning all that stuff, I'm very much in a similar position to you in that I have a very, very, very basic understanding. I can kind of set them up, but I definitely need to find a way to monetize them and to manage them. How do you decide which are the right platforms for you, the best pieces to prioritize to try and sell your books? Or is it all just play at the minute?
Well, I think it has been just sort of have a play about, read and listen to other people and figure out. So, I think the biggest investment initially I made was buying the Ads for Authors course. And even then I didn't do it all immediately, but I listened to a lot of the original stuff. And I think the first thing I concentrated on was getting a mailing list set up. And it's really not that big, to be honest. It's not huge, but I have that set up now, and I had an onboarding sequence, and then I wasn't very happy with it. So then I redid that, and I'm quite happy with that now. Although you can always go back and improve, can't you? So I think there's probably other things I could do with it, but I spent a long time on that, I think, when I was writing the first couple of books. And now I've sort of gone, right, I've done that now, and it works to an extent. It might not be as effective as it could be, but I've got an onboarding sequence, I've got a mailing list. I have freebies that I give away to people, so they get a prequel and they get a short story as well. And then I do my newsletter, which again I've spent hours agonizing over, and now I just I've got into a groove with it, so I just write it every 2 weeks, and send it off and hope for the best sort of thing. And now, because I don't necessarily get that much feedback from I get some, but I don't get a lot of responses necessarily. But then I think there's a lot of people that just read it and sometimes buy stuff, but they don't, they just read it and they don't necessarily respond to me. I do have some quite faithful people that do always answer me. And then now I think I'm faced with having a whole series, having a newsletter set up and a mailing list. I think now advertising is the thing I have to face, and I think I've been putting it off for ages. So like I say, I've been doing Amazon ads, not that successfully, for about 3 or 4 months, and I thought I'd give it one last go for now with Brian Cohen and try and follow all his advice and do what I can, and then I'm going to look at Facebook ads, but I can't do more than one at once. It's just so mind-boggling. So now I know, and like you, I can do an Amazon ad, I can set it up, and I know what keyboard there, and I know how to set all the settings. But I spent, Brian Cohen, get ready for it, because I spent 3 hours this morning looking for keywords, and I've done it before, and I did it again, and I might have all the same ones, and I need to have a way of organizing it. My brain was exploding a little bit. Yeah, no,
that's it. I see these people that are managing dashboards that are full of every single combination of every keyword and every author they're seeking after. And there's just, it just seems overwhelming, particularly when, obviously as a writer, your main business is that you want to write and get the words down. One person we haven't spoken about yet is a previous guest on the show, Ali Ingleby. You guys run the Facebook, The Last Book Cafe on Earth.
Yes.
How did that come about to be? And would you say that's in any way sort of like a fundamental component of your marketing? Or is that more sort of for play?
Well, no, I think we're trying to make it like that. Yeah. And there is a really kind of tight-knit community in there now. It's not huge, but it's growing. I mean, I can't claim responsibility for it. It was Ali's idea originally. She set it up, and then we met. I don't even know where we met. We met online somewhere, and we write in the same genre. So we chatted on and off, and eventually she kind of said, "Oh, would you like to sort of co-moderate this group with me?" So I was like, "Yeah, fine, yeah." And we've built it into, so there's quite regular features now, and we got to the point a month or two ago where we were actually trying to get. The idea is that we want the members to be kind of running it and taking part in things, and so that it's sort of less work for us and it just ticks along in the background. And actually we have had some success with that recently. So we've got 3 or 4 members who are really keen. So one of them runs a book club for us. So we have a monthly book club. We read a dystopian book over the month, and then she sends questions in. So we have that as an event. And we have sort of other sort of recurring ask the author type questions. And I do think, like I say, it's not huge, but the people that are in it are quite faithful, as it were. So they're quite keen to read our next thing, and they get quite involved. And I think, I mean, again, I bought the whole, what's the super fan book, turn a fan into a super fan. I can't remember exactly, but I've bought that book. Again, not ready yet, but it's that whole like getting people to come to the group, because actually you can just then hang out and chat to people. And so getting people who read my book to then be like, well, if you come in this group, and Ali and I are there, like at least probably once a day at least, popping in and out. And so it does feel like it's building into a community of people who feel like they can access us as writers, and so they are fans. And then they will, if we ask them to sort of pass anything on or share anything, they'll do it for us, which is lovely. So whilst it's not huge, it's a nice place to hang out, and I like it a lot. So it's fun, but it's also hopefully building into something useful for marketing purposes as well. Yeah.
And is that do you have your own Facebook author group as well, or is that in place of?
I do not. That's in place of. Well, not in place of. I've never had one. I've got a page, but then obviously pages aren't the thing to have anymore in their group. So, but
everyone has a page, but no one knows why.
Yes, exactly. So I have a page, and I do try and post stuff on that. I was certainly on the run up to Quell. I was trying to do like at least a couple of things in it per week, but it just becomes too many things to do. So I have it, and actually, that's probably the most common place that readers would contact me. They like if they have a question or they've finished the book and they want to say something to me, I do get messages on that. But no, I don't have my own group. I think maybe in the future I might, but at the moment, time wise, I'd rather be writing. And the Last Book Cafe serves as a place for Alison and I to have all our readers together, because at the moment we're writing the same genre, so it makes sense for us both to be there, and we can share the work as well.
Yeah, and I guess there's also a certain level of support you guys can give each other in terms of approaching and just journeying along this path of authorship.
Oh, definitely. Alison is my go-to person for most things, to be honest. She's hugely more organised than me and has read all the craft books where I haven't. No, she's amazing.
How important is it to have other authors around you?
I think probably very, and the whole like networking thing, I'm not really very good at it. So I tend to have a few close friends that are authors. I don't have like a massive network. I'm trying really hard to sort of be more present in the Facebook groups that I'm in, because I think it is helpful. And when you do have people that you can go, because with all the best will in the world, my own friends from my other life, my non-writing life, don't have a clue about the money that you might make from, they go, oh, you've written another book, oh, that's nice. And some of them read the books and think they're good, but I don't, even my mom, like I had to sort of, you have to almost say, look, I've made this much money from my books. And they're like, what, really? Like, I think for a really long time, people have just gone, oh, that's nice that you write books, and nobody's really sort of believed that, and that it could be something that people could do full time. So yeah, it's definitely nice to talk to other people who have more experience, and there will always be people who have more experience. But yeah, when I've just gone like banging my head against a wall with a plot point or something, like then being able to say to another author, right, what they think. Yeah, help. What do you think about this? And equally, hopefully, with the adverts, I know that the Brian Cohen group's been really good so far, because everyone's supposed to like comment on each other's and cheer everyone on and answer questions for each other, and everyone is doing so. Yeah, that feels nice, and you feel less alone.
There's definitely a bubble in authorship. One thing that sprang to my mind today was I've been tagged by about 5 different people in a short story writing contest because I live in Lincoln, and up at the cathedral they're doing some fantasy writing competition. And because my friends know that I write, clearly they don't get the difference between the genres that I write and fantasy. But I've been tagged by loads of people to write a story for the thing, and I've done the nice thing of being like, oh, thank you for tagging me in this, but at the same time I'm probably not going to enter because it's just not what I write. But yeah, there's definitely a whole world of people who know that this is possible and the journey that we're on, and sometimes it's really easy to forget that the people closest to you in life just don't see any of that side of things.
I think that's quite true, and you have to almost sort of like prove it to them, like I said. I mean,
here's
I'm
my
really
royalty
lucky.
statement.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm really lucky because my husband is incredibly like, he's very tech savvy, which is helpful because I'm not always. And he's incredibly supportive. Like I say, he's the one that put a pen and paper in my hand and went, go on then, write it. And he's the one that went, self-publishing is possible, and this is probably how you do it. So I think I relied on him a lot to start with. And he's not a writer and he's not a self-publisher, but just having someone who goes, you can do this. I don't know whether I ever would have done it. So he's usually really supportive and helpful, and that's great. But again, he's not a writer. And again, the marketing side of things, like I'll have people be like, oh, why don't you do an event at the local library? And to be fair, I have done that once, but like marketing wise, I'm like, it's not really going to get me any kind. And I've also done, because other people have gone, oh, you must want to go around schools because you're a teacher and you write, so you must want to visit schools and do. And again, I have done that a couple of times. I've done it in my own school for free because they're always like, you can come in as a writer. But yeah, that nobody kind of gets that's not really going to be selling digital books, which is what I need to do to make a living from it. Yeah,
I had a friend pose to me the idea of renting out window space in a shop for, I think it was £7 a month, and it was this really sort of innocuous shop just right out of the way that no one ever went past. It sold all kinds of bric-a-brac, and I was like, really, really appreciate you thinking of me. And then I had to try and say in like a nice enough way, like, that's not where my money will come from. But genuinely, like, thank you for thinking of me in that way.
People are always trying to be helpful, but it isn't always helpful. Yeah.
No. What would be your number one tip for new writers who are thinking of getting started in writing in 2020?
I should have prepared an answer to this one, shouldn't I? Okay, I would say. I maybe would say make sure they pick a genre and they know it well, so that when they start writing, that they're going to, because I think, again, with me writing dystopian fiction, I'd read so much dystopian fiction, like, not as a teenager, but like growing up and then later on. So then they would be comfortable and know enough about that particular genre to be able to write in it. And I was going to say maybe outline, but then maybe not. I think your first book, you just have to just write to prove you can do it, I think. So yeah, I'd say know the genre they're going to write in well, and make sure that they know, I'm not going to say the tropes, but that they know what should happen in that kind of a story, and then push on and finish a book before anything else, because I think that's what you have to do to yourself first, is prove that you can finish a story and write X thousand words. Yeah.
You learn so much by just writing the end. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We are coming up to time, unfortunately, but I do have one big question for you, and then 10 little questions in the rapid fire round. So my big question is, why do you, Clare Littlemore, write?
I write because it makes me happy, and because there are stories in my head that want to be written.
Beautiful.
There you go. That's it, I think. After all those rambling answers.
No, absolutely spot on. Okay, so going to dive into the quick fire round now, which is, like I say, 10 questions. I'm going to throw at you as quickly as possible. You can pass. It's all in good fun. And are you ready to begin?
Yeah.
President Snow or Sauron?
President Snow.
Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, chocolate chip cookie dough.
What star sign are you?
Cancer.
Hills or rivers?
Rivers.
Who was the last writer to make you smile?
I don't know. That's all. I don't read happy books. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pass. Sorry.
That's fine. How high can you jump?
I don't know. 2 feet. 2 feet. That feels like too high. A foot in the air.
That's quite impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I'm not very good with measurements. Maybe. I don't know.
Just
10 inches.
High,
that's more like it. I've no idea. Yeah.
If you could live in any fictional world, where would it be?
Oh, I'd live it at Hogwarts.
Astronomy or spelunking?
Astronomy.
Astronomy. How many marshmallows can you fit in your mouth?
I have no idea. 10.
What's one book that you wish you'd written?
The Hunger Games.
Nice, good choice. And that was a motorbike just going past my house very loudly. Fantastic. That's 10 questions. One bonus question, which is, where can my listeners find out everything about yourself and all that you're working on?
Okay, so my website is www.clarelittlemore.com, where that's where information about my books, or they can find me on the Last Book Cafe, which is the Facebook group that I run with Alison Ingleby that you mentioned, and then the Clare Littlemore Facebook page, the author page on Facebook as well.
Perfect.
Those are probably the best places.
Sweet. I'll put all the links to that in the show notes. Everyone grab yourself a copy of Flow and the rest of this series and get stuck in. And Clare, thank you very much for joining the show. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, not a problem. It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you.
No worries. And thank you everyone for listening, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Great Writer Share podcast. Next week, I'll be joined by podcaster and the author of 10 Steps to Happy, Lindsay Weisner. Collaborations for Authors, the first book in the Great Writer Share series for writers, is now available to pre-order. Order your copy now for instant reading on Friday, 26th of June. Head on over to any of your favourite bookstores or visit books2read.com/collaboration. And that's books, the number 2, read.com/collaboration. Until next time.